So why am I doing this? I'm starting this podcast because we all have a story and finances play a part in our struggles and successes. If we can learn from the many mistakes many others have made, we can make sure that more of us are successful. Like the quote says, to increase the chances of success, we must increase our failure rate. To be honest, I failed a ton. I will bring people from all walks of life, but mostly service members. If you have a story you would like to share, do not hesitate to reach out. From the go, like and subscribe to this podcast so many others can benefit. Today we have Maya from Francis and Reeves Advisory. This is the CPA firm that I've been working with to get the right information to all of you guys. So, Maya, how are you today?
Mia.
Mia,
Yes.
sorry, my bad. Mia from Francis and Reeves.
I'm great. I'm doing so well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. I've been telling people, and obviously from both sides of like an expert and a woman in finance, I think is really awesome. The more that I dive into this world, there's a shortfall. And, you know, as you've seen people that are doing in finance, like women kill it. Like us dudes don't even stand a chance. And it's pretty awesome. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Where were you raised? Where were you born? And how did you get to be a CPA?
Yes. Well, thank you for the compliment. And I look at it as, women or men, we have equal opportunities to pursue our happiness. Think about the movie Pursuit of Happiness, right? And so I'm trying to help as many people as possible, but I'm really proud of being a woman in finance. Well, about my upbringing, I grew up in Vietnam, 18 years in Vietnam, in Hanoi, Vietnam. So you probably heard about it. And I got a full ride scholarship to go to TCU, Texas Christian University, to pursue the accounting degree. The reason why I picked to do accounting was when I was 12 years old, my parents gave me the book Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I just fell in love, right? So I immediately wanted to have my own business and do something with my life. And I didn't know what kind of business to have. So I started selling cakes to people, schools nearby, and I made some money. And that was like my first project. But it was not until when I was 18 years old that I started to study and wanted to go to the U.S. because the authors of Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, they were from the U.S. So I just wanted to go to the best country in the world to study about accounting, which is the foundation to starting a business. So that's how I ended up in accounting, and I've not regretted a day since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's crazy. I don't know if you remember, but the author from Rich Dad Poor Dad was a Marine. And I see a lot of how his upbringing led to being the way that I am now, right? Our upbringing and then the formative years in the military plays a role with that, because I've had a few people ask, do you have any opinion now about schools that you would recommend to go for a CPA degree, for an accounting degree? Because I keep seeing a lot of people in, Brigham Young, and a lot of people in Texas. So are those the best schools or like commonly known?
Well, if you remember with Rich Dad Poor Dad, the author said it doesn't really matter if you go to school or not.
True.
In fact, education is not really the way that you should go if you wanted to, be successful in life. There are different ways to be successful, right? I kind of agree with that, but I do think that accounting, like you cannot study accounting if you do not go to school.
Right.
So in terms of schools, I looked at when I was studying for college and picking colleges, I initially wanted to study at a good business school. So business schools, you have TCU, Brigham Young, right? And then top 30 business schools, old school in Texas are great. But then when it comes to accounting programs, I think the number one accounting programs are, it's from the UT Austin.
Wow.
UT Austin and Brigham Young. But it doesn't, to me, though, in particular, I was not looking at ranking as much as the scholarship they gave me.
Right.
But in terms of what kind of education to get, honestly, I don't think people care much about what school you go to, but like they care about if you can pursue the CPA license, if you can, work for a public accounting firm, how many years of experiences you have, is your license active? So from a CPA standpoint, that's what matters more than what school you go to.
Right.
But I love my school and I'm grateful because they gave me.
Isn't it the Horned Frogs?
Horned Frogs, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh,
Yeah. I used to care a lot about sports. Sports are awesome, but I just haven't followed it. So that makes sense, because a lot of guys and girls are looking what to do with their careers. A few people ask me about like where should they pursue accounting education. It even works even better given that UT Austin is a very veteran-friendly school. So that's awesome. So your finance scripts, we spoke a little bit about this. What are some things that you heard outside of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich that had a formative effect in how you see finance, money, business, that you heard it in your youth and an upbringing?
Man, so many books, because I don't know why, but I just have this passion about money and finance.
Yeah.
And because to me, I think money means a lot of things. It means that you have freedom. You can give more love to people, contribute more to people's lives, and you can really just grow yourself. I mean, it doesn't mean anything evil to me in particular, but in terms of the influences, Rich Dad Poor Dad Think and Grow Rich, definitely. I like the book I'll Help Ramit Sethi.
Yes.
Yes. So I like his book and I like his philosophy. In the past, I read Dave Ramsey and, the debt-free mentality. I like Grant Cardone. So different people have different mentalities around finances, right? But I kind of want to absorb their knowledge and then form my own opinion about what works best for me. And, what works best for me doesn't mean it works for other people.
I agree. And I personally have my opinions about Ramsey. I don't like it. Does not work for me. But when people tell me they use Dave Ramsey, I'm like, great. Get out of your situation and improve it. But there's a lot more other information that to expand on it. But what about things that your family said, like, money doesn't grow on trees, or the rich are evil? Did you ever have anything like that in your upbringing?
Let me think. I think my grandparents were very frugal. So I grew up where my grandparents were, they live in a very small apartment, and my parents were working all the time. And, I was just hanging out with my grandparents until I was like 10. Right. And we had to save a lot of, we even had to save electricity and water. Like I had to make sure that whenever I go to a different room, I have to turn off electricity and water. So it's a frugality, like a frugal mentality mindset that I got from my grandparents, even though it didn't say it to me, but I know that I should always save.
Right.
And that kind of aligned with the Dave Ramsey, mindset, right? It's like you have to just save a lot and do not have any debt. And when I read the book Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, I had a shift in my mindset, because now it's not just about saving, but it's about investing.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean investing in real estate, though. I think Robert talked a lot about real estate, but it's also investing in your future and education. Not a traditional education form, but like just education from having a network of mentors, from your peers, from your mastermind. So I learned a lot about that.
No, I totally agree with that. And I often deal with service members because of the VA loan. They often see real estate as like the perfect solution to financial independence. And I keep telling them it's one of the ways, it's not the way, right? And we got to apply all that. And the number one asset class is investing in yourself. So I totally agree with that. And it's actually funny. I was asking you about financial scripts, and your grandparents reminded me of when I was young in Ecuador. There was a drought, and we would go summers having to lose electricity. And I never realized why I am the way I am until just now. It's like, that's why I'm so frugal with electricity. I remember like, hey, power's out for the 6 hours in the summer during the day. And it's like, oh, figure it out. And it's so normal. And now we're very fortunate, right? We live in America, the greatest country in the world. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about CPA stuff, because
Sorry. Going back, I haven't finished yet.
Sorry, go ahead.
The mentality behind that, because my grandparents and then the books and then my parents were actually pretty successful. They have they're doctors, so they do make money. And so their mindset were different from my grandparents' mindset too. And they never taught me that money should be, it should be a scarcity mindset. Like we don't have that going up. So I just, when it comes to mindset, I just absorb information from so many different people. And then, after I went to school and got a CPA license, I, got coached by a lot of different mentors. Yeah. And I picked their brain, but then again, it's I want to make sure that I can form my own opinion about money because it works for me. But when I work with people like you or work with people that need tax planning help, then every time we do tax planning for someone, it's a customized plan. Right. Just because I want to invest in insurance and real estate, doesn't mean that you would do the same. You might just want to invest in your business.
Right.
And then maybe 5 years from now, then you save enough and you do insurance. So there are different people with different plans in mind, and we want to make sure we respect that. But give our opinion as well.
Right. No, and that's huge. Like we said, that you don't have a scarcity mindset. You have an abundance mindset. And again, we learned that in Think and Grow Rich, right? There's enough money for all of us, and for all of us to have a lot of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So on CPA stuff, because that's really, I feel there's a huge gap there's already a huge gap in knowledge in personal finance, right? So when it comes to things that you do for people, why would you say that tax planning is important?
Just tax planning itself.
Okay.
Because I think that tax is, you think about it, do you think tax is going to go up or go down?
They're going way up.
It's not going to go down anytime soon or ever in the future. So tax is, if you think about taxes that you paid, a lot of people just think about taxes they pay to the federal government. So it could be between 15% and 40%, right? But then they forget about state taxes and city tax, county tax, sales tax. Every time you buy something, depending on the state, you pay 8% in sales tax or in taxes too. Property taxes. So if you add up all the taxes that you have to pay, it's probably more than 50% for each one of us.
Wow.
So, because most people forget about property tax and payroll taxes, sales tax, self-employment taxes, right?
Right.
So with that being said, imagine the people that they are already at the 39% or 40% tax bracket. If you add everything up, it's probably 70% of their income goes to taxes. Now, I do not tell people to pay less than they should, but they want to make sure that they have enough money left for themselves and to build their life and their legacy and help their families as well. So our goal here is not to do anything illegal, to help people like avoiding taxes in a, sketchy way, but we want to make sure that people are protected and pay the right amount, the amount that they think they should.
Right.
Legally. So.
Right. And I read somewhere that like 5% of the tax code is how we get taxed. 95 is how we get out of it. And, I don't have time to read that. And that's why I go to professionals like you and to Jeff, because there's a lot of power in that. And I want to lower my fees. So I want to cut back on my taxes. So that's huge. And I would recommend any business owner to reach out to a reputable CPA and hold them accountable. I have a lot of friends that have CPAs that charge $200 and all they do is tax filing. And I'm like, you're missing out. Like, there's actually a lot of money to be saved and made. With that, yeah.
Well, last year we saved our clients on average $53,000 per client a year in taxes. And with that, if you combine that with compound interest, right? Because you can invest the money in real estate, in your business, or in the stock market, right? So even with compound interest at 7%, that could grow year over year to millions of dollars. And so I wanted, and I know about insurance as well, right? Private placement, even if it's 4 to 6%, it's still a lot more than paying to the IRS or putting it in the bank, earning less than 1% interest.
That's insane. $53,000 on average. And I'm assuming that a lot of your clients have very high income. But anyway, you cut it. That's $53,000 is way more than what I thought you were going to say. That's huge. So the biggest question that military people have is why can't they write off the things they buy for their job in the military as W-2 employees?
Yes, so that's a great question. That's a lot of W-2 employees ask the same question. If you were in the IT industry and they always want to write off a lot of stuff. Now, it's not going to work because you do not have a business. You can only write off expenses if you have a business, meaning that you get paid in the form of 1099.
Right.
Or, your client pay you money and it's not to an employer. You're not going to get the W-2.
Right.
It's just not in the tax code that you can deduct anything if you're a W-2 employee. When you file your tax returns, right, you can also, the itemized deductions, meaning that you can deduct some sort of home mortgage and charitable donations, things like that. But it's very rare that you can do it. I would say 95% of my clients do not itemize deductions because they do not have enough expenses to put in that schedule. So pretty much if you have a W-2 job, you pay more than 50% in taxes. as we discussed before, right? Not just the federal income tax, it's a state, it's a payroll tax, it's a sales tax, it's a property tax, all that add up.
Right. So you would suggest every American to have a business of some form to write off. Is that something you would suggest?
If they do really want to have a business, because if you have a business and just to write off expenses and your business generate a loss more than 3 consecutive years, then you will get audited. Very high chance that you get audited. And if you do, then you would have to pay back. They would disallow the expenses. They would say that your business is a hobby and they would disallow the expenses. So you would have to pay back the taxes you owe, penalty and interest as well. And we've been through several cases like that where people were not educated and they just have a business to generate losses for so many years, and that's not going to help.
So how much
you have to make money?
How much income do they have to generate? Is it like even $1 counts for a year?
Yeah, I mean, just more than break even.
Wow, that's I cannot want to create a business, and I'm sure I can find something that I can create $1 somewhere in all my expense. Obviously, that requires a lot more for the write-offs, but it sounds doable. So
let's just say if you have a business that generates $10,000 in revenue, right? And then you write off $9,000 in expenses. Now your business make $1,000, which is still good.
Right.
You still have to pay tax on that 1,000, but the IRS cares about if you have 10,000 in income in revenue and you have 20,000 in expenses and 10,000 in net losses for more than 3 years, then it's not good.
That makes perfect sense. So what kind of businesses do you generally recommend to maximize write-offs? Or what are some of the things that you see your clients doing that puts them at an advantage?
Let me think. So businesses, I know that in my experience working with more than 400 business owners, service-related businesses are the most profitable. So what are the service businesses, right? You do consulting, you can do insurance, you can do private placement,
right.
What you're doing, what we're doing too.
Right.
You can do financial consulting, you can do marketing consulting, anything that doesn't require inventory.
Right.
Because if it requires inventory, then you would have to spend a lot of money on, in the military, right, equipment, or in restaurant, like food costs. It could eat up all your profits. Right.
That makes perfect sense. And I think that I wish more people saw the advantage of those write-offs, because it's a huge, I just finished my taxes with Tax Planning Pros, and I paid taxes the last 4 years, a lot. And all of a sudden this year I get a refund. I'm like, you see, the year that I make the most money in my life, I get a return. And it's because I finally found the experts to do it, right? So that's awesome. And I think that I keep trying to pass this on to people so that they can take advantage of the tax code. Because after listening to the book, I think it's Wainwright, he's from Kiyosaki's team, I was like, the tax code is a good thing. I just need to learn to leverage it. Mm-hmm. And so what you do, I would almost say thank you for your service, because it's so incredible what you're doing, putting more money in Americans' pockets. I think that is incredible. With that, another question that people generally have is, because since service members have TSP traditional, how can they do a Roth conversion? Is that very hard? Is that just something a CPA does in the tax filing the next year? Or is there things that they have to do beforehand to go from a traditional to a Roth?
For traditional to a Roth, I think my general knowledge is you would have to have a year where you do not make a lot of money you don't have to, right? But it makes sense that way, because the traditional, you get a deduction, but then you have to pay taxes when you retire. So do a Roth conversion is great, but then it has to be in a year that you make very low income compared to a normal year. And you still pay tax on the conversion, but then it's nothing compared to if you retire and it compounds, you have to pay more taxes.
Right.
When it comes to the ins and outs of doing a Roth conversion, we do the tax filing, but we're not advising on how to do it, because you need to work with a financial advisor on that to figure it out and all the forms. So I would suggest going to work with a financial advisor on that.
Okay, to convert from traditional to Roth. Yeah, because I've never done that. I'm going to have to do it, and I'm going to ask Jeff how to do it, because I want to get all my traditional into Roth here soon when I get out of the military. So what would you say are the largest write-offs that your business owners are able to write off? And the second question, what are the, what do you say? Now, I don't want to say eclectic, but weird, different write-offs that you have seen?
Yeah, the largest write-off, it really depends on the business, but I would say majority of the business owners, the biggest write-off is payroll. Because you have to hire people to work for you, right? To scale the business. So for my business, for example, majority of the expenses are be payroll and contractor related because we are very heavy service business.
Right.
Now, for some other businesses like restaurants or people maybe in the military businesses, or that would be equipment or food costs, so cost of goods sold. So depending on the kind of businesses, the different kind of expenses.
Right.
You said weird expenses I've seen, right? I have a client that wrote off an airplane.
Great. That's awesome.
$2.5 million. And
Whoa. Yeah, I guess that's a good way. I actually, the funniest one that I've seen, I have a friend that has a business in Austin, and he writes off all his firearms and ammo, to protect his land. And I was like, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but his CPA does it. And I'm like, great. I'm sure and that's what I try to tell people. They're like, I've gotten messages by people that are like, how do I write off X? And I'm like, you need a business that makes that expense necessary and ordinary, and then you're set in, that's what I love about good CPAs, the creativity, how do you form the business, create the business to mold this to it. So it's really, really cool what you guys do, grabbing the tax code and almost massaging it so that it makes sense for others, which I think is great, right? So,
yeah, well, I mean, the airplane is great because he's always wanted to. Normal people would say, well, this is crazy. Why would you buy an airplane, right? But with my client, he's wanted it for a while. He has partners. He can use it for different purposes. It works for him. But again, it's like, with the tax plan, it has to fit with the individual's wants and needs and what they can afford. But I like your story about writing off because it's right. Everybody has different things that they want to write off. And if they don't do it the correct way, then it could be severe. Like the impact could be severe.
Yeah. It's so true. And I don't want to get audited. So that's why I go to experts. So you're in the business, you don't give advice, right? You're not a financial advisor, but what is the best and worst advice you have ever gotten?
Okay. The best advice I've had, man, there's just so many good advices I got.
Yeah.
Good advice I got. The best advice is to invest in myself.
Okay.
And I cannot agree more because if I'm not healthy mentally and physically, spiritually, then the business is not going to run and nothing's going to work. So I spend a lot of money on training and education to help with my mindset, to help with my mentality and, do a lot of workout, and I eat organic food. Like I want to make sure that I'm at the best shape and mental stage possible. So that's the best advice that I had. Their advice about finance and, how to invest money in this and that, right? I love that. But I've always go back to working on myself.
Right.
And
That's
if I have
huge.
to spend all my money on myself, I will.
Yeah. I find that not enough of the people that I know do that. Especially because in my community, we're so used to our line of work providing our education and providing the care that it's very uncomfortable to then go and spend $1,000, $200 on personal development. And that is, I've noticed it with me. It's like I go to an event and I pay $200 and I'm like, man, $200 is a lot of money. And then I get there and I'm like, this was a bargain. So I'm trying to change that mindset. And I see, the cost of Jeff. He's not cheap, but to me, it's worth it because I know I can reach out to him any moment. To me, he's training also. He's not just I'm investing in me by talking to Jeff, not just in my taxes.
Exactly.
So it means a lot to me as well. So what about the worst advice you've ever gotten in the finance space?
In the finance space, again, it depends on the people's personal situation, right? So it could be the worst advice from me at a certain point in time, but it could, for someone else, it could be the best advice ever.
Right.
But the worst advice I have, in my opinion, funny enough, it's actually from the Rich Dad Poor Dad too. And it's kind of conflicting, but then he said accumulating a lot of debt and, zero out your bank account. Yeah. I know that it works for certain people, but it doesn't work with my personality.
Right.
I do want to have debt to grow my business and to grow and to invest, right, in the form of investment, but I still want to make sure I have a safety net to come back to in the form of other assets, not just real estate.
Right. And that's a really good one. And again, then another big question on the CPA side, I know that you can write off because, and like you said, that's really bad advice for some people. Zero out your bank account, pay your debt. Doesn't work for me either. I need to leverage OPM. That is just how my brain works. But especially now with interest rates going up, and I know more of my audience wants to continue to buy houses, what are the requirements to write off the interest rate on your home? Because that's a huge cost saving, and it's only going to get bigger as the years go on.
Yes, that's a great question. So when it comes to writing off interest on your home, the best way to do it is you would rent out a part of it.
Okay.
Or you would have a home office, have a business, right? So if you have a home office, then you can write off expenses associated with that part of the home. So let's just say your home office is 200 square feet and your house is 1,000 square feet, then 1/5 of whatever you spend on your house could be spent on your home office space. And you can also use, like if you buy a sofa or you buy like a printer, things for your home office, photos, things like that, you can write them off too. So that's good. That's good to know, right? Now, another thing to know is if you want to rent out a part of your house to someone else, that person can literally pay off your mortgage.
Right.
You can live in your house for free. At the same time, you can write off the home office space.
Right. I generally suggest that to people. I did that in when I bought my first home in California. I got a bunch of roommates, and I think I gave myself bad advice, and I bought a house that I couldn't afford on my own. But I figured it out, and it worked out. I took a huge risk, but I had roommates the entire time, and it worked out for me. So I try to encourage people, and like we all, we talk about in the finance world, you have to take a risk. If you play it too safe all the time, it's really hard to win. So you got to take some risks, right? Calculated at that. And I knew I could make it happen, and it was very tight for 1 month. I was in the house for 6 years, so it really worked out for me. So I try to encourage people to be mindful with that.
Oh, yeah. I would suggest keeping 3 to 6 months, at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses, either business or personal, in your bank account. Just in case anything happens, you have a safety net, right? Or you have assets that you can sell. But for a company our size, in particular, we need to keep at least 3 months of operating expenses. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to end up in a hole, and that happens to a lot of people. And people, I noticed that they're really bad at balancing it. A lot of people either have too little, and then I run into people that have too much.
Yeah.
I'm like, 3 months expenses is like $20,000, and they have 100, and I'm like, you're missing out. Your money could be doing so much for you, and it's a huge balance.
Now, they keep that 3 months of expenses, and are they investing it in something pretty safe, but like it's liquid, right? I would not say just keeping in the bank and earning, less than 1% interest.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what are your goals and dreams? What are you doing with F&R advisory? Like, again, what effect are you going to have in the world? That's a lot of questions, but what are your goals and dreams?
I can tell you one goal in each criteria: professionally, personally, and financially. Then you can ask me if you have any further clarification. So my goals and dreams when it comes to F&R is our biggest goal is to get us $200 million in revenue, and that's a 10-year target. I know nowadays, in the past, years ago, it's easy to come up with a 10-year target and say, okay, we have a 10-year goals and dream, and we build the whole roadmap to get there. But with technology and AI and everything that's happening nowadays, that goal, even though we have that number, but that goal has to be flexible. How we get there needs to be more flexible, and can't just build a business plan and say, this is the plan to get to $100 million. But that's always in our mind, to get to that $100 million in revenue in 10 years. And we're going to help 2,000 business owners. and we're gonna have 200 employees working for us. So our goal here, we have very big goals, right? And whenever I think about it, I'm a little bit scared because it's a big goal, but like if a goal doesn't scare me, then it's not a good goal. So
I agree. I totally agree.
Financially, I would like to be able to make at least $2 million in income for myself.
Okay.
And why do I come up with $2 million? Because I've never accomplished that. And once I get to that $2 million mark, then it's one milestone that I can get to, and then I move to the next target. With the $2 million, I can buy homes, I can help my family. So I can talk to you more about that. Those are sub goals that are under that $2 million financial goal. Personal goal, I would like to have abs, so six pack. So that has always been my dream, and I want to accomplish that. So I'm doing a lot of training to get to that point. But overall, I love living the life I have, and I'm always grateful. And it's not that nowadays I have my own business, I'm happy. I've trained myself to be happy, even though I don't have any money, or when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Generally a happy person. And my other personal goal is to empower people to live the life they love, no matter what condition they are. So when I talk to you, when I talk to my employees, or when I talk to anyone, our client that we coach, we want to empower them to live the life they love, because life is short. Anything can happen to you today or tomorrow. So if you do not love every moment, you might not know there's the next moment. So that's the mindset.
That's huge. And I think it was after the show Limitless with Chris Hemsworth that have you seen that show?
I watched the movie with Bradley Cooper.
So that's a different movie. So there's a show with Chris Hemsworth about health and how he sees living a long life.
Oh,
incredible. And one of the things that hit me that he says is that kind of resonated in my mind is that, I'm gonna die. I'll be dead in a minute. Like I only have one more minute to live. And it's like, if you think of it that way, it's like there's a whole different sense of urgency to create an impact and take care of ourselves, right? So that's huge. And on the six pack, good luck, which is actually, it's so funny because I recently heard that there's more people that are millionaires in America that they have six packs.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Right? But in my community, there's a bunch of people with six packs. So it's a huge disparity, right? Of what we get exposed to. So people in my community think, oh, I get a six pack is, I'm not going to say easier, right? But then if I go in probably your circle, making a million's easier, right? So it's very funny, right?
Interesting.
So what effect do you want to have in the world? I know you said about getting people to live the best life they have, but do you have any other like large goals that you want to have an effect in people's lives?
Yeah, so I think on the business side, we want to contribute to 2,000 business owners, 2,000 families, to help them save more in taxes and grow their businesses. And if they can grow their businesses, they help their own employees.
Right.
If everyone live the life they love, then it's going to affect everybody else, right? I've always wanted to change the world for the better. But I do think that it starts with, in my opinion, if you can just live the life you love, then that's a miracle, because a lot of people do not live it. And even if when you say it, that I want to live the life I love, I don't. Like, a lot of people don't.
No, not at all.
To get to that point, and in every conversation that we have with people, with families, like, how can we reinforce that? It's not like we're forcing people to love their lives, right? But that mentality can be shifted. We would live in a much better world.
Right. So I wanted to, with that, you being a successful woman in business, if you had, a minute with 2 minutes with your audience, what message would you send to your audience?
I would say definitely live the life you love and appreciate every moment, because you don't know when the next moment would be. But in my experience, right, money is just one thing, but if the money is just sitting there and it's not doing anything, then we're not fulfilled. So I would ask people to really look into what are their life purpose. And I know it's hard to figure it out. for me, my life purpose is to help people live the life they love, and through finances. So our goal is to help business owners minimize tax liabilities and maximize their profits and build their legacies, and in return, loving their lives and their family.
Yeah.
So I would say that to business owners or to people that are listening to this podcast, what's your life purpose? And let's just say if you do not have one more minute to live, right? Or one more minute to live, like what would you want to do now?
Right. And it just hit me that the questions I'm asking you, the answer sounds repetitive. And then it hit me that your your prime directive is so solid that it's like it's covering all these things. And what I try to tell my audience is that, great, you can go make money, but if you don't have the right mindset, going back to Think and Grow Rich, it's never going to happen. So I really appreciate that you're repetitive with it, because it shows that it's totally ingrained in everything that you do and in your business. And I think it's a lesson that we can all take, that if we have that right mindset, we're going to achieve those goals, which is awesome.
It's easy, right? It's once you figure it out, it's easy, because every time I talk to someone or every time I do something, it's the immediate mindset that am I doing the right thing? Am I true to myself? And am I living my life mission? Right.
That's awesome. Well, I had another question on do you guys deal a lot with veterans and service members?
We have a few clients that are veterans and service members, and you guys work really hard, and you have your targets, and you're all very successful. So I do have faith, and I really think that you're going to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, because you were trained to be loyal and honest and pursue your goals no matter what.
Right.
I have a lot of respect for you.
We appreciate that. And I actually tell that to my audience as well, is that, they think that getting wealthy is hard. And I'm like, you've done harder things in life, right? You can achieve anything. Again, mindset, right? So, and maybe there's nothing, but I wanted to ask, is there anything specific that you've seen from service members or veteran owners or veteran business owners that you think we could do better? That is specific to a community? And maybe there's nothing, but I just wanted to ask.
In terms of like finance or...
Finance and CPA side, for the most part.
So I could be wrong, because I don't have a big sample size to kind of generalize, right? But I think it might not just be the people in the veteran or service community, but like in my client in general, is that people do not really think about finance that much. So finance is like, I think it should be number one thing to think about, health and finance and family, right? But then people push finances to like the bottom of the list. So when it comes to making money, like you might be very good at making the sales call and doing the work, but when it comes to organizing it and paying taxes and making sure you're not overdue on certain things, like it's like the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
I've seen that in a lot of people, and it's some of the people that I work with are in the military. You guys do the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's a big trend that mind, body, spirit, finance is the one that I heard. I'll give credit to where I heard it. It was in a traumatic brain injury clinic that I went to, and we always hear mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. But the moment that you throw mind, body, spirit, finance, it's all part of it, right? And if you neglect one, the other ones suffer. So it's a huge balance. And I know that you and I are trying to make a change in the world, in the financial space, to allow people to get to their version of wealthy, because that supports all their other dreams. That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah. You integrate it into your daily life, mind, body, spirit, and then finance.
Right. Totally. So where can people find FNR?
Yes, so you can go to fnrcpa.com. That's our website. Or if you would like to schedule a free consultation with us, we do offer a 30-minute Zoom conversation with people who are interested in working with us or partnering with us or just collaborate. Yeah. Then it's you can email team@fnrcpa.com, and we have a number we can give you that you can post and join as well.
That'd be great. Now, you and I spoke a little bit about a program that you guys are developing. I don't know if the program's ready to go, but can you tell us a little more about the program that you guys are coming up with?
Oh, yes. So from my experience working in taxes and accounting for over 10 years, I realized that not a lot of people, there are a lot of businesses that are startups, and not a lot of businesses can reach the point where they make $250,000 a year in revenue. And in my opinion, if you do not make $250,000 in revenue, tax planning is great, but it's not a must, because you can do your own taxes, your own books. Like you're still good, because we do charge at least $10,000 for anyone that works with us.
Right.
Now, I do not want to ignore the population of startup business owners, because you have so much potential. And so I do want to help and contribute. So I'm developing a program, which is still in development. So when it's ready, I'll let you know. Awesome. But I'm thinking about $1,500 for the 6-week course that we teach people that are starting up how to organize their finances, and there's some mentality around finances and investment, how to organize your taxes, what are some of the simple tax planning strategies you can use before you reach that point. So I think it's going to be very helpful that you can gain knowledge that when you're not ready yet for the $250,000 mark, it's going to be very helpful for you to get there and to expedite your process.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, the end goal is that after that training, people can have all the right documentation and all the right information so that they can go to a tax filer, hand it over, and they'll still maximize the write-offs. That almost the tax filer can't mess it up because they got the expert knowledge from a tax planner. Is that kind of the idea of the program?
Correct. So in any program, you have the high achievers and we have the people who are just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like if you are a high achiever in the program and you show up in the Q&A calls and you follow the video training, then that's the correct answer. But then for the ones that if you are not serious about it and push it to the bottom of your to-do list, then it's not going to happen. But our goal is we're going to give you all the tools possible for you to manage your finances before you reach that have a $250,000 mark.
Yeah. Perfect. I am so stoked. I think that we've spoken about some other things like SkillBridge, and I don't know if it's going to happen. This is my hopes and dreams, so that maybe we can put some of those 200 people you're going to hire. We can be some veterans. I know some awesome women that would be a great asset to your team. And yeah, I am super stoked. Thank you so much for your time and your resources. I'm going to post the email, the phone number. And once we have this program, I'm going to be sharing it. So thank you so much. This was great, Mia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. And yes, we're always hiring. We're hiring 2 more team members for the accounting team. And we're hiring 1 more sales position for the sales team. So we'll welcome all the applications. And I would love to do SkillBridge. And I think there might be another program you guys have, like 2 different programs, right? That you can utilize the resources and help you at the same time.
Right. I'm probably going to be sending you the information for the other program because I'm interested. But the SkillBridge is the more important one in my mind because it captures the widest audience of the military, right? Oh. Anybody can apply to it. So you may get a 20-year-old with no experience applying. You may get a 43-year-old high senior member of the military. So it's a wide berth and you get to accept and deny as needed. But I think that like I have a friend, she's applied to 19 programs. Nobody's taken her. Really? And she wants to do a remote program. And I'm like, this is a problem. She's hungry. She doesn't know what she wants to do. She wants to SkillBridge somewhere. Nobody will take her because whatever path she took in the career. So that it hurts me because I want her to be able to get exposed to something. And obviously, I'm sure that I dare say that just about anybody in the presence of you guys would benefit from it. Without just sitting in that office, could just sit there and like your job is to sit here and say nothing. People are going to benefit from it just from listening. So I hope that we can get to those 2 programs and change the world.
I would love to, and yes, changing the world one person at a time, right?
That's it. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
This podcast is not financial advice, and it only represents the opinions of those participating. Our goal is to get you to your version of financial independence. Please follow and like on every platform.